If you're trying to figure out what the heck is going on in the Bay Area housing market right now, you've come to the right video. The truth is, the Bay Area housing market is incredibly confusing right now for both home buyers and home sellers. And in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the numbers, the real data behind why you're experiencing this and what to expect as we move into the summer months of 2025. For those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Gould. I'm a Bay Area realtor and a hotel investor. And over the last 10 years, I've sold well over $250 million worth of residential real estate here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I've helped hundreds of families achieve their goal of home ownership and helped hundreds of sellers sell their home for the highest possible price. And I've been through a lot of different markets over the years, but this one is the wonkiest market that we've been in. And the only market that I can relate it to, the only time that comes even similar to what we're experiencing right now is 2019. In 2019, for those of you who don't remember, before the COVID year, we had a really interesting market. And that really started in the late spring, early summer of 2018, and it carried on over into 2019. And we're experiencing a lot of that same uncertainty, a lot of the same turbulence that we experienced in that time now again today. So in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the data, the cold, hard numbers behind what's going on right now in the market across the Bay Area, and comparing some of those numbers to what we saw in 2019, comparing and contrasting, seeing if we can spot any trends and maybe is there light at the end of the tunnel, or are we going to be stuck in this weird tailspin for a long period of time. Hopefully the data is going to help clear some of that up. But before we get into the data, before we get into the numbers, if you're a home buyer in today's marketplace and you're trying to figure out what is the right price that I should be offering for the house that I'm going to be offering on, or what are the trends in the neighborhood that I'm going to be buying in, because every single neighborhood is a little bit different. You can text the word data plus the area, zip code, or neighborhood that you're looking in, and we will get a comprehensive data report sent straight to your inbox. And if you're a home seller in today's market, pricing strategy matters now more than ever. And if you are looking for a comprehensive data report to assist you in your pricing decision making, you can text the word data plus your property address to the number down below, and a member of my team will get that information sent straight to your inbox. Now, at the beginning of the year, we saw some trends that really inspired confidence heading into 2025. There were a lot of things going on at the beginning of the year that made it seem as if this year was going to be an incredibly fruitful year for the Bay Area housing market. That being said, a lot of things have happened outside of the Bay Area. Extraneously, economic uncertainty, a change in presidential regime, a lot of geopolitical issues are still lingering, and all of that affects consumer sentiment. And I think that's a big part of what's going on right now in the greater Bay Area. The truth is that nothing materially has changed over the last 3-4 months here in the Bay Area. But unlike a lot of other markets here in the United States, our market is impacted a little bit more by things like the stock market, where a lot of individuals who are buying homes are going to be liquidating some of their portfolio in order to access the funds to be able to put a down payment down on a house here. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in most cases, right? To actually put down on a house, and they're going to have to liquidate some of their portfolio to do that. No one wants to sell their stocks at a massive discount in order to do that. And so you're going to see some of the buyers kind of flee from the market right now. And at the same time, you do get some sellers who, out of desperation, we gotta sell this house, right? It's like the panic selling in the stock market also happens in the real estate market sometimes, where folks start to, feed into they start to really get affected and feed into the doom and gloom that's kind of marketed out there by the media. And that doom and gloom kind of inspires, well, maybe I should sell my property now sort of thing. And the last thing you want to do as a seller is make an impulsive decision, right? So in today's video, what I really want to do is pull back the curtain on the data, see what's happening right now, and hopefully some of this information is going to help you make better decisions moving forward, whether you're a home buyer or you're a home seller. Because the truth is that this is a temporary lull in the market. And I've seen this so many times, countless times now over the last 10 years, where something happens and you get all these experts, you get all these gurus out there, your armchair quarterback, so to speak, that predict the end of the world, the sky is falling. The sky is not falling, right? We're going through a bit of a lull right now, but after every lull comes a fairly large resurgence. And so let's dive into the data, and then we're going to see, okay, when is that resurgence coming? We're going to talk about that. We're going to see what the numbers are saying. And if there's anything in the market right now that kind of shows us, okay, when can we expect the market to turn back around? Is there light at the end of the tunnel? So let's dive into the numbers. Starting off with Santa Clara County. In Santa Clara County, we in March had 1,416 homes active on the market, 1,110 homes pending. We start to see the delta between active inventory and pending sales increase. So what does that mean? Well, it's becoming a little bit more buyer friendly, right? Anytime we see that delta increase and we see that absorption rate, right, which is measured pendings divided by active inventory. So when we start to see absorption rate diminish, go down, that means it's a little bit more buyer friendly. Now, are we in a buyer's market? Absolutely not. There are so many examples, case studies that I could show you. I'm not going to bore you to death here, where we are seeing multiple offers. And I'm not just talking 2 or 3, but there are many homes here in Santa Clara County that are still selling with 5 to 10 offers plus. It just depends on the circumstances. And that's really the punchline here. If this were truly a buyer's market, you wouldn't be seeing multiple offers pretty much anywhere, right? Let alone a 5 to 10 plus offer scenario where homes are going multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars over list price and some still over market value. That doesn't happen in a buyer's market, period. What we are seeing in real time, though, is a market adjustment. An adjustment to the new reality. And the new reality is there are less buyers in the marketplace right now than there were even a few months back. And there are more sellers in the marketplace right now, as you can see by the data. And even if we compare this to a year ago, in March of last year, and this is where we really start to have this aha moment, we have almost the same amount of pending sales. So notice that even though there are less buyers, quote unquote, in the market right now, we had almost the same amount of homes absorbed. Right? So that means that instead of like 10 offers on a house last year, maybe we're only getting 2 or 3 on a house at the same time. So there's less buyers, less demand, quote unquote, but there's still the same amount of homes being absorbed. Compare that to the active inventory though. And this is where it gets interesting. Look at where we were at a year ago, 754 homes active versus 1,400 homes. Now, there is a massive difference in inventory levels. And so for all of the people that want to say, oh my gosh, the rates this and the rates that and all that, the rates haven't really impacted demand that much. What we're seeing though in real time is this pent up energy, right? We've had low inventory now for so long. And I think what we're seeing right now is just an exasperation, a period where sellers are saying, listen, I'm tired of waiting. I'm going to move on with my life. And that's where we're seeing that increase in inventory coming in, as well as other things too. But really what I'm seeing here, this is not a demand problem. This is not like a buyers are being scared out of the marketplace problem, more than a influx of inventory. And it's not really a problem, it's a situation, right? But we're seeing this in real time. Now, if we look back and we'll start to look at historical data here in a second, you'll see like it's really not that bad. All right, so let's go to San Mateo County. In San Mateo County, 581 homes active on the market, 403 homes pending. We compare that to a year ago. We had 427 homes. So we're at about a 30-ish, 35%-ish increase in active inventory year over year. But again, same story, pending activity, pretty much the same, right? So again, we don't really have a buyer problem. We have a surge of inventory. Let's move on over to the East Bay. In the East Bay, we have 1,400 homes active on the market, 801 homes pending. And if we compare that to a year ago, it's almost the same story, right? 795 homes pending, which is almost exactly the same amount of homes pending that we have today. The difference is though, we had maybe 60% of the homes on the market as we do right now, right? So inventory has gone up tremendously, like by about 70 to 80%, right? And that's a big change in inventory over the course of 1 year. And if we look, really, this really started, right? This really started in the fall last year for the East Bay, whereas in Santa Clara County, we really didn't start to see this trend emerge until January, right? Now, heading on over to Alameda County, again, almost identical situation here. 1,351 homes active on the market, 763 homes pending. We compare that to a year ago, 743 homes on the market, and 743, I believe, it's really hard to read there because I think they're identical numbers. 743 and 743 pending and active a year ago. So almost the same amount of homes pending right now as there were a year ago. And again, about half the homes, right, that were on the market last year. We had about half the homes on the market last year as we do this year. So across the board, what we are seeing is not a drop in demand, right? If we are seeing a drop in demand, we would see year over year dips in pending activity. That is not the case. Less buyers in the marketplace doesn't necessarily equate to like less absorption, right? And that's one thing that we really need to kind of keep in mind here is that there's only so many homes that are going to be sold in a certain amount of time. And what we're seeing here is that there's still consistent demand, maybe not as much demand as there was a year ago, but consistent demand. The real story here, though, is the active inventory in the marketplace. Now, how do we make sense of this all? Well, one thing that I like to do is kind of go back in time and look at trends from the times that are similar to what we're seeing right now. And as I mentioned before, 2019 was fairly similar. So let's look at 2019 in Contra Costa and Alameda County combined. So I kind of combine these two areas into one. And one thing that stands out here, so we look at March of 2019, for example, we had 2,773 homes active on the market, 2,300 homes pending. So if we do the math, we're actually pretty much right at where we were at in terms of inventory levels. We just had a lot higher demand back then, right? We had higher levels of pending activity. And why is that? Well, the rates were lower than they're at right now, right? Rates are a lot higher now than they were back then. And that could certainly be playing into what's happening right now with that delta. Clearly though, like when we look at the East Bay right now, the thing that sticks out to me is that the absorption rate is about like 60-ish% across Alameda and Contra Costa combined, right? When we look at that. And in 2019, we were closer to like 80%, right? So there's a pretty big drop off in pending activity from 2019 to 2023. This is where it all kind of starts to come together here, right? We're seeing, like, because people might be thinking, oh my gosh, we had this influx of inventory. Well, no, the inventory levels back then are almost the same exact as they are right now. So the market can bear that amount of inventory. In fact, we are still well below where we should be at in terms of inventory levels here in the Bay Area. So what this data is telling me right now, as I kind of interpret it, is that even though we're seeing an influx of inventory, perhaps it's going to take a little bit more time for the pending activity to kind of catch back up, because we saw inventory levels kind of really creep up over the last couple of months here. And so it might take a little bit more time for pending activity to follow suit. And what's going to cause that, or what would have to happen in order for that to actually become a reality, is I think for some of these extraneous things to kind of clear up, right? The economic uncertainty being a big part of that. You know, here in the Bay Area, and I've mentioned this before on many stats, if you've watched this channel for any period of time, you'll know that, like, I talk about consumer amnesia a lot, right? Because as a whole, right? As a whole, we are very forgetful people, right? Here today, gone tomorrow. And so the second something good happens, we're going to forget about all the bad, quote unquote, that's happening right now. And I wouldn't even say it's bad unless you sold the dip, but I'm not convinced that it's all doom and gloom. Let's look at Santa Clara County in 2019 as well. So in 2019, we had 1,544 homes active on the market and 1,245 homes pending. Notice how in the fall of 2019, it got worse before it got better. Right. And so I do think that over the next 6 months or so, there could be pockets where it gets worse before it gets better. But that being said, I do believe that just like anything, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Depending on who you're talking to and what news sources you're consuming, there are anywhere between 2 and 4 rate cuts projected now in 2025. And no matter how much uncertainty there is out there, the second buyers see that their rate is dropping anywhere from, say, 0.5 point to 0.75 point, that is going to make a massive difference. Investors are already pricing in a 75 basis point drop in rates over the course of 2025. That's what they're pricing in right now. That kind of stimulus is going to inject this market with a new wave of buyers, and we could start to see absorption rates creep up over the next couple of months as those rates start to drop. So what should you do with this information if you're a home buyer or a home seller? Well, first of all, I just want to make note of this, and I'm timestamping this April 16th of 2025. If you were a buyer over the last couple of years that's told your friend, told your realtor, told whoever that, like, you're looking for the market to crash, to correct, whatever, the crash isn't coming, right? But the correction is already upon us. Things are already correcting in real time. And so if you're a buyer that's looking for opportunity, now's the time to do it. Because what happens when there's a 75 basis point reduction in rates over the next 6 months? What do you think is going to happen to the buyer pool at that point? You see, the window of opportunity is now, and I really do believe that. So if you're a buyer that's sitting on the sidelines waiting for the right time to buy, well, you're either going to wait for certainty, in which case you're going to pay. You're either going to wait for certainty, in which case you're going to pay for it, right? Or you're going to take the opportunity that's upon you and buy it in uncertain times. Guys, the money is made during uncertain periods, right? You think anyone in their right mind thought that it was a good idea to buy in 2009? There's so many people. I mean, I hear stories all the time of people who made millions of dollars after the crash, who bought properties in that time period. And everyone was telling them, all their friends, all their family, everyone was saying, do not do that. You are an idiot. Do not buy. And guess what? Those people made millions of dollars because they bought during uncertain times. And right now, any way you slice it, there is a ton of uncertainty out there. And because of that, the herd is going to stay away from the market. So you're either going to be a sheep or you're going to go out there and buy right now during these uncertain times, right? So you can choose to go with the herd, and that's totally fine. That's your prerogative, but don't ask for the discount, right? You can either get the discount, right, and buy during uncertain times, or you can buy with certainty, but you're going to pay a premium for that. And so those are really the two options that you have right now as a home buyer. I cannot sugarcoat it any less, right? I'm giving it to you guys super raw right now because you deserve the truth, not some fabricated, sugar-coated half-truth. That's not good for you. It's not good for me either. Now, if you are a home seller and you are looking at this data right now, there are many sellers right now that would likely be better off waiting another 3 to 6 months. Now, this is not universally true. There are many exceptions to this rule. There are still pockets right now that are performing exceptionally well here in the Bay Area. So it's hard for me to give sweeping advice, but there are many areas where it would be prudent. Many sellers who are in areas where it would be prudent for them to kind of hold off and just assess, monitor the market. And there might be a better window of opportunity over the next 3 to 6 months. I cannot predict when that's going to be. And if you are a home seller and you're trying to figure out what's the best strategy for me, you can text the word consult to the number down below. That's consult to the number down below. I will reach out to you. We can get together via Zoom. We can discuss your situation and I can give you practical, very real advice for your specific situation. No fluff, no sugarcoating. I'm just going to give it to you straight and tell you, exactly what I would do if I were in your shoes. Now, if you've made it this far in the video and you are not yet subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button, hit that notification bell to get notified every single time I post a new snapshot just like this one. And that's it for this video, everyone. Hope you found it useful. This is Danny Gould, and I'm Selling Silicon Valley. I will catch all of you in the next video.